Topic 6. The body as a cosmic antenna. The body is not a prison for the soul. It's the soul's most sophisticated instrument and one of the primary channels through which the universe communicates. Most people live almost entirely in their heads, treating the body as a vehicle to carry the brain from meeting to meeting, missing the extraordinary wealth of information it carries every moment. The gut, often called the second brain, contains over 500 million neurons and produces 95% of the body's serotonin. When the gut says, "Something is wrong here," before the analytical mind has processed a single data point, that's not superstition. That's the body's energetic intelligence reading the frequency of a situation with a sophistication the thinking mind can't match. Energetic hypersensitivity, which intensifies with spiritual awakening, is in this context not a vulnerability, but a navigational gift. The person who has developed somatic awareness, the ability to read their own body's signals with precision, possesses what is functionally a cosmic compass. They feel the energy of spaces, of people, of decisions, before their intellect can analyze them. Donna Eden's Energy Medicine and Peter Levine's Waking the Tiger are two of the most practical available guides for developing this somatic literacy, for learning to read the body the way an experienced navigator reads weather patterns. The investment pays extraordinary dividends in every dimension of life, from relationships to professional decisions to creative work. Two daily practices are particularly effective for developing the body as an antenna. The first is conscious breathwork, specifically the box breathing technique, 4 seconds in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold, practiced for 5 minutes before any important decision or interaction, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system and dramatically increases energetic sensitivity. The second is what might be called body scanning for cosmic data, sitting quietly, moving awareness slowly through each part of the body, and asking, without forcing an answer, what each region is carrying, sensing, or communicating. The answers that arise from this practice often feel like they come from somewhere larger than personal memory. That's because they do. The body is not merely biological, it is a living intersection point between personal consciousness and the universal field of energy. Most people talk at the universe, wishing, praying, demanding, without ever realizing they've got the signal completely backwards, and that the real conversation has been going on the whole time, just beneath the surface of their awareness. The universe isn't a vending machine waiting for the right coin. It's a living, breathing field of consciousness that already knows the soul's deepest desires and has been sending back answers in a language most people were never taught to read. The moment someone genuinely understands that their consciousness isn't inside the universe, it is the universe looking at itself, the entire nature of communication shifts from supplication to co-creation. This isn't a mystical fantasy for dreamers. Quantum physicists at the Allen Institute and Google Quantum AI are now exploring how quantum superposition and consciousness are fundamentally entangled. What follows is the rarest, most practical, most transformative guide to a conversation that will change the trajectory of an entire life. And it starts not with words, but with becoming. Topic 7. Alignment. The state of flow. There's a state that athletes call the zone, that musicians call being in the groove, that mystics call grace, and that the universe calls its favorite way of operating. This state, known in the spiritual tradition as alignment, and in positive psychology as flow, is what happens when personal consciousness stops fighting the current of the universe and starts moving with it. In alignment, the right people appear at the right moment. Opportunities arrive without exhausting effort. Decisions that once felt paralyzing become obvious. Creativity flows like water, finding its natural course downhill. This isn't luck. It's the result of a consciousness so coherently tuned to the universe's frequency that the two are functionally indistinguishable. The great enemy of alignment is force, the grinding, white-knuckled effort to make life conform to the ego's timeline and preferences. The ego is a brilliant tool and a terrible master, and when it takes over the steering wheel of life, it inevitably drives toward the same destinations: control, comparison, and exhaustion. The higher self, by contrast, navigates by resonance, by moving toward what genuinely feels alive, meaningful, and true, regardless of what social convention, family expectation, or financial anxiety suggests. Aligning with the universe means, in very practical terms, regularly asking not, "What should I do?" but what feels most true right now, and being willing to act on the answer even when it's inconvenient. This is where personal growth becomes a genuine spiritual practice, rather than a self-improvement project. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's landmark research on flow states, documented in Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, identified that people consistently enter this state when they're engaged in tasks that sit at the edge of their current capacity, challenging enough to demand full presence, achievable enough to allow success. Spiritually, this translates to a life design principle. Deliberately pursue activities aligned with the soul's deepest gifts, at the frontier of what feels possible. Keep a weekly alignment audit, a short Friday ritual of asking 3 questions. What felt most alive this week? What felt most depleted? What one adjustment could move me closer to flow? Over months, this audit becomes a compass of extraordinary precision, a map drawn not by ambition, but by soul. Topic 8. Becoming the message. The highest level of communication with the universe is not sending or receiving, it's becoming. There is a stage of spiritual development, accessible to anyone willing to travel far enough inward, where the conversation with the universe stops being an activity and becomes a state of being. The Zen tradition calls it Satori, the Christian mystics call it union, the Vedantic tradition calls it moksha. In this state, the individual soul doesn't merely communicate with the universe, it recognizes itself as an expression of the universe, as conscious as the stars, as purposeful as gravity, as infinite as space itself. This isn't a concept to believe, it's an experience to inhabit. The path to this recognition runs directly through the complete integration of everything explored in this journey. The silence, the intention, the bodily awareness, the shadow work, the healing, the flow. None of these practices are separate techniques. They're facets of a single diamond. And the diamond is the soul claiming its full nature. What the great traditions unanimously describe as the higher self realizing its identity with universal consciousness. When this happens, even briefly, even in a single moment of luminous clarity, the entire framework of a person's relationship with life changes irreversibly. The universe stops being out there, the soul stops being in here. There is only the one seamless breathing reality that always was. Practically, the cultivation of this ultimate state begins with one deceptively simple commitment: to treat every moment of ordinary life as a potential doorway into the infinite. Not just meditation, not just retreat, but the morning coffee, the difficult conversation, the frustrating delay, the unexpected beauty of light through a window. Ram Dass, in his final years, described this as loving awareness, the practice of being fully present with everything, without preference or resistance, as a continuous act of devotion to the living reality of the universe. Reading I Am That by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, or spending 40 days with nothing but the power of now by Eckhart Tolle are two of the most direct available invitations into this terrain. The person who accepts that invitation will discover something that no search engine, no book, and no mentor can fully prepare them for: that the universe was never somewhere else. It was here, it was them, and it has always been the most breathtaking conversation ever held. The call to begin. So here is the only question that matters right now. What if the most important conversation of this entire life has been waiting, not in some distant spiritual dimension, not after years of perfect practice, but in the very next moment of genuine stillness the soul is willing to give itself? Everything covered in this journey isn't theory. It's a living map, and every single step can begin today, with a single minute of real silence, a single honest intention, a single moment of listening to what the body is trying to say. The universe has already been answering. The only variable is whether the signal is being received. Is the life being lived a genuine expression of the higher self, or a performance designed to avoid the deeper calling? Is the inner silence treated as something to fill, or something to enter? Does it feel like the universe is a distant authority to petition, or an intimate intelligence already in conversation with the soul? Apply this knowledge. Not someday, not perfectly, but now, imperfectly, and with the beautiful courage of someone who has decided that awakening is no longer optional. Subscribe to this channel and enable notifications, because what comes next goes even deeper into the architecture of consciousness, the mystery of the soul, and the extraordinary reality of a life lived in full alignment with the universe. The most important transmission isn't the one being sent, it's the one being lived. And that transmission begins the moment a person chooses, fully and irreversibly, to become who they actually are.